Hello designers. This will be a demo for Photoshop exercise 2. You can see that I have got the instructions for exercise 2 open, and the attachments. There are 5 attachments, one for each of the healing brush, patch tool, content aware, and clone stamp tool. And I've got each one of those 5 open here in Photoshop. I'm going to hit Command 0 to size up this file to fill the screen. And we're going to start off just moving through these tools. They are all quick Command J, so you will see Spot Healing Brush tool, Patch tool, Content Aware tool, Move tool, and we'll ignore the red eye tool because you guys are all real photographers using real cameras that don't let those red eyes happen that happen with a lot of point and shoot cameras. So we're going to be focusing on these 4 tools throughout 5 demos, and they're very quick demos, but I hope to share with you the power that each one of these tools holds in order to do the right task with the right tool. So the first one we're going to open up is Concrete JPEG. I have it open here and you can see an unfortunate crack in this concrete. So we will be using the Spot Healing Brush. Now, it is an easy question to say, why don't we just use the clone stamp? Well, you absolutely could use the clone stamp. The clone stamp will yield, however, hundreds of clicks, whereas this simple Spot Healing Brush will probably do the trick pretty quickly. I'm going to use just a really short stroke, and I want you to take a look. What we are always looking for in these healing brushes or in the clone stamp is to not end up with mushy pixels. You're going to hear me say mushy pixels all throughout the semester, and by doing this in little bursts, it's able to source enough content information that we don't end up with those mushy pixels. And I will just kind of move my spot healing brush along, and it looks pretty good. I think it looks great here in the left side of the file, but I do see some mushy pixels on the right. So I'm going to switch to S, my clone stamp. And in order to use the clone stamp, you need to hit Option on a Mac or Alt on a PC to define your source. I'm going to define my source here, not up here where those 2 bright spots are. And I'm actually going to go ahead and make my brush a little bit bigger. So I'll define my source and just kind of click along here. And you can see tightening up of all of those kind of mushier pixels. I see a little bit right here in the middle, so I'm going to redefine a source from a clear area and just cursor over it like so. What you want to be careful of not doing is picking a source where there is a bright spot like this and then repeating that over and over again. So we'll get rid of those, and we could even get rid of that spot as well. You can go in and really make sure that you are having a clean reference like so, and we are completely done with this assignment. Well, this part of it, the concrete. I can go back to the option open and then show you what it would look like if I were going to define my source right here on the edge with the clone stamp and then kind of cursor across. Check out what happens. We're actually sourcing a little bit too close and we end up repeating the crack itself. So doing this project using your quick Command J, the Spot Healing Brush, cursor along, go back, fix that little guy, do some quick bursts along here, maybe one more. Looks pretty great. Let's move on to our second one, which will be the patch tool. It's pretty easy to find the patch tool. It looks like a patch that someone would sew on a pair of jeans. We're going to do this one in Dandelion. So let's go ahead and Command 0 to fill the space. Now the patch tool is really cool. What you're going to do is get something kind of similar to a polygon lasso, and then you're just going to move along what you want to remove. So again, this is the opposite. I'm going to include that little dead head right there. This is the opposite of the clone stamp where you define your source where it's perfect and then paint that over. This one we're going to use the patch tool to kind of grab our file, and then you see once I cursor over it I get an arrow. We're going to move it, and I always say err in the area of going a little bit darker versus lighter, or anywhere that's going to have not so much of a repetitive pattern. I think we can line those up right there. And what do we do to deselect? Command D. Looks awesome. We can go from our open to our close, and in less than a few clicks we are done. You can always go back to your clone stamp, define this source, and kind of fill in wherever. I think that looks super smooth. Let's move on to our third one and our third tool. We're going to go to West 66th. Here we're going to go ahead and grab our, we're going to use just a content aware fill. So we can do anything we want to make this. You guys know I love the polygon lasso tool, but you could use the magnetic lasso tool. Let's do the magnetic lasso tool, and I'm just going to move along the edges, and I'm going to move kind of quickly and right around the outside. For a project like this where we're just trying to fill it in with this concrete texture, we don't have to get too crazy. As you saw when I closed the circuit, it made a little circle. Now actually I can see that it doesn't look that great because I missed the top. So I'm going to use my arrows to kind of cursor up and over. Now here comes the really easy part. I'm just going to hit delete. When I hit delete, my fill options come up. I could fill it with black, white, gray, some sort of pattern, but I'm going to select content aware and hit OK. Photoshop will do the rest. To get rid of my dancing ants, Command D, and any kind of mushy pixels that you see maybe right around over here. It's not that bad. I'm going to hold Option, click on a really sharp area, and just cursor right over it. Looks great. That was our third tool. We'll use our fourth one, which is the Content Aware Move tool. So that is also under here, quick Command J, Content Aware Move tool. For this one, let's use the Horsetooth project. And what I'm going to have you guys focus on is, I'm going to grab my hit Z for my zoom, my magnifying tool, and I want to focus on this little shrub right here. So I'm going to go back or hit just J for my content aware move tool. It is the fourth one down under the spot healing brush tool, and this one's going to be very similar. You're going to have a cursor. So I'm going to cursor loosely around this shrub like so. And then once I complete the circuit, my dancing ants will show me it's ready. And then I simply click and move it. Now I'm going to make sure that I'm moving it so it's got that same kind of line hitting here. Hit enter or my check mark. And just like that, Command D, it's moved my subject. Now I can see that it has a little bit of an error right there. You can see it right there. So what you could do is just zoom in, grab your stamp, your clone stamp. Whoops. Let's define a source right on this line, and then we can cursor right over it. Absolutely perfect. I can also define a source here and just build that out. And anything that looks a little bit off here, define a source and then just run my cursor right over it. Let's hit Command 0 to zoom out. From open to end, we've successfully moved our little shrub using our content aware move tool. Whoops. Which is right here. It looks like two arrows kind of crossing over each other. We're 4 for 4, so let's finish strong with roadside. Roadside is where we're going to go ahead and use the clone stamp. All that we need to do in this one is remove these happy little sunflowers. So I'm going to zoom in on that area, pull that over, get a nice fluffy brush, hardness at 0. 120 might be a little much. Let's do a 73. I will define my source in this kind of bushy shrub, and then just cursor over and remove those happy little sunflowers. I always wonder why I made a project where you remove the sunflowers. We could have just as easily removed the fence posts. To get these flowers on the edge, I'm going to redefine my source by holding Option or Alt and make sure that I'm getting half of the bush on the green bush on top and then half of the grass on the bottom. And that way I can just drag my cursor along like so. We could even get rid of that rock, cover it right up, and Command 0 to zoom back out. Happy flowers are gone. For some extra credit or some extra fun, feel free to get rid of that fence post and, tweak this project to do anything that you want. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you back in class.